The Aggies, the Jazz, the high schools. If it's the sport you care about, we're talking about it. The Full Court Press on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan.
Hello, everybody. Hi. How are you?
Hi. I'm great. How are you?
Is everybody good today? We all okay?
It's good. It's good.
It's good?
Yeah, sure. It's
Good
Tuesday.
in the hood.
Utah State, top 15 team in the country with the big win last night.
I don't know if it's a big win. It's a win.
It's a win.
Montana State didn't prove to be all as good as, if Coach Smith played poker, he'd win a lot because he's a great bluffer. Because that UTSA team's not as good as he made it sound like. There's a reason why they're 0-4. And we'll get into that in the 5 o'clock hour. Utah State 82-50 winners over UTSA. They can improve to 5-0.
Or how about we give credit to Utah State defensively?
We could do that. I'm definitely with that. I'm definitely with that. Absolutely with that. And by the way, this is all without their starting center and top 10 projected draft pick in the NBA.
Holy cow, that game went by fast last night.
It did?
There were no free throws in the second half. At least not for UTSA. They did not shoot a single free throw in the second half.
Did it go by fast, though?
Yeah, it did. It just kept moving along at a clip. There were no breaks.
Yeah, I guess that's true. What game time was total? Where is it? No, it doesn't say here. Usually it has the length of the time. Yeah, it doesn't say. Anyways, yeah, okay. I guess UTA's or San Antonio's last field goal in the second half was with 4 minutes and 31 seconds left in the game. They didn't score after that.
That's incredible.
I was sitting courtside and listening to Craig Smith at times, like when Brock shot that three and missed it and resulted in a foul. Oh, man. It's like one of those things where you're laughing so hard, but if Coach spots you laughing, he's going to, wring your neck. Oh, my gosh. Listen to him chew Brock Miller out.
He was
one
not
of the
happy.
Funniest things I ever seen.
He was not happy.
And the best part is when I've seen him yell at the players, like Bean got yelled at one time and Brock got yelled at one time, they just very quickly glance at Coach Smith's eyes just to let him know that they're acknowledging what he's saying, but then don't look at him the rest of the time. They're just like, oh, yep, gotcha. Okay, well, hey, Sam, how are you, man? What are you up to? Huh? Hanging out?
Anyone sitting here?
So, anyways, 82-50, Utah State Aggies go to 5-0. They now head to the land of the greatest bobsledding team in history. That is Jamaica, where they will take on LSU on Friday, North Texas on Sunday, 5 o'clock start on Friday. 5 o'clock start on Friday, right? And then 4 o'clock, I believe, on Sunday. I don't know, that doesn't sound right, though. I had it listed, and then I don't anymore.
Utah State will play at 5 o'clock on CBS Sports Network on Friday.
And then, or is it later than that?
Then they play again on Sunday at 4:30.
Winner, chicken dinner.
Split the difference there. That'll also be on CBS Sports Network. So our sister station, KVNU, they'll be doing their game day stuff Friday for a full 1 hour before tip-off, and then again on Sunday for a full 1 hour before tip-off.
I should wait to ask you this later, but I'm not going to. Are you guys going to do a pregame on Black Friday for St. Mary's? I mean, they're what is that, a 9:30 tip-off Mountain Time? You guys do a pregame then, huh?
Yeah.
You're Black Friday, man. I hope your wife's okay with this. You're working on Black Friday. Or are you going to skip out?
If it's basketball, I'm not involved.
Why not, Eric? You have good thoughts.
Jalen Moore has better thoughts, so
yes,
defer to him.
Okay.
So Jalen Moore handles the duties for basketball.
With
for
who?
the pregame. With
Al and John?
Al and Jalen in the pregame, and then it's Jalen usually has some thoughts that he weighs in on right after the game, and then John Russell's there to help out with phone calls and things like that.
Cool.
He give his own analysis.
Oh, cool. You know, watching this USU men's basketball team last night, I think when you look at the schedule before the season, you know how good this Utah State team is going to be, but how good are they going to be when the schedule really gets to the grind of it?
Mm-hmm. That's
Eric,
the question.
Eric, dude, I think they're going to sweep Jamaica, and they might even beat St. Mary's, too. Like, they might be 8-0 by the end of next week. And then they play, I mean, and their schedule doesn't get any easier, really. It's still pretty tough. They've got, in fact, actually, they had a couple games that were scheduled in late, but I feel like this team is so good and so focused and so locked in. Their biggest challenge may not be LSU, North Texas, or St. Mary's. Their biggest challenge might be when they finally face Fresno State at home on December 7th or whatever it is. Yeah, December 7th.
No, they'll have a test. They'll be tested this weekend, and they'll be tested next week at St. Mary's. Those are good programs. Those are good basketball teams.
But Utah State's like on a different level right now, man.
Well, yes, but they're also going up against some mediocre to bad teams.
Really? Do you want to ask St. Mary's that about losing to Winthrop? Do you want to ask Florida, who got tested by Townsend and lost by
I'm talking
about
Utah State and who they've faced. I'm not talking about St. Mary's.
St. Mary's, you just said St. Mary's is a good basketball team, but they lost to Winthrop.
No, I'm saying Utah. Well, yes.
Oh, okay, there we go.
So I see where you're going. But yes, St. Mary's is, but they're still, in their other games, they have dominated the teams that they've played.
Schedule here for the next few games looks like this. Utah State's not at home for a long time. They're in Jamaica again versus LSU, 5 o'clock, as Eric mentioned. This is all Mountain Time. North Texas, 4:30. St. Mary's at St. Mary's, 9:30.
p.m.
That's p.m. next Friday night, Black Friday. Then at San Jose State, they got a few days off before they're back in California to play San Jose State. That's 9:15. And then they're home against Fresno on the 7th. And then home on the 10th against St. Catherine.
Right, because then they go down to Salt Lake City to the Beehive Classic to face BYU.
That one's going to be a tough game. I got a feeling that one's going to be a very, very tough game for Utah State. That BYU team's better than what what people think.
Yeah, and they're playing well, and they don't even have Yoli Childs with them right now.
Yeah, and they just beat a good Houston team,
Houston
by the way,
on the road.
At Houston. And before they head back to Houston, but speaking of which, and play South Florida at the Toyota Center. What a just brutal schedule, man.
But it's great. I mean, this is what Utah State needs. Yeah. This is what fans have wanted for years.
I agree.
And now we get it, and we get to enjoy it. And, man, wouldn't it be awesome to go and watch a top 15 team play in your own home arena?
Yeah.
I mean, really? Wouldn't that be great? If everybody felt that way?
Oh, by the way.
If nobody could miss not seeing a top 15 team in their home arena, in their own community.
By the way, did you see Doug Gottlieb?
For prices that are not really that expensive at all?
Did you hear Doug Gottlieb? He's pretty disappointed in the Spectrum crowd last night. And
well, I saw the tweet from Jerry Bovee. I didn't hear Gottlieb today. Did he comment about it today?
Just a little bit. He says ranked teams deserve everybody's support. And he says, especially in towns where they don't, that really the only thing going on last night was what? There's no high school basketball.
Family night. We're making vision boards.
Okay, if anybody who's not LDS had something else to do.
So
go
Jerry
to the Utah
Bovee,
State game.
At halftime, he shares this tweet. So he sent it out to the whole world to see. It says, just visited with Doug Gottlieb at halftime. He's here doing the game on Stadium tonight. The game was on Facebook. He said, this place is great, and you have the 15th best team in the country. Where is everyone? I had no good answer.
There isn't a good answer.
There isn't a good answer.
Yeah, well, okay, unless it's family. Well, I see here in Utah, it's a LDS majority, and they stay at home.
I mean, honestly,
they read the Quran. And
I'm not trying to bag. It may sound like we're bagging on people, but
we are.
Honestly, I want to know what was more compelling last night. Like, why? If you didn't go, why didn't you go? I'm honestly curious. I'm not going to chew you out. I'm just curious. You have the 15th best team in America playing in Logan. It's your team. The student section is awesome. If you didn't go, why did you choose not to go? I've seen a few things since this Jerry Bovee post, and some people have replied to it. Some people saying they didn't know about it. They're trying to blame students, that there's no communication on campus. I thought the student section was good.
Yeah, it was all right.
I mean, yes, it could be better.
There you go.
But, well, come on. It's not like... some people are saying, some of the excuses I've heard, these aren't good teams. We don't know who they are. Utah State's going to have a blowout win anyway. It's the 15th best team in America. That could be ranked even higher than that after next week if things continue to go well. And your last chance to see them in like 3 weeks.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing, is you won't see them until December 7th. You will not see this team until December 7th. So where are you? 435-752-1069. I want to know if you agree with us or not. Are we being too harsh on the Utah State Aggie fan base for not showing up to watch the 15th ranked team? Or do we actually have a legitimate argument here, a gripe? 435-752-1069. Now,
did you not know about it? Maybe you didn't know about it.
Yeah, maybe you didn't know, which that'd be kind of crazy. But by the way, here's another good point. In fact, I received a message from somebody. I'm not going to tell you who, but they told me I'm too poor to buy tickets. Now, he actually brings up a great point in this regard. How many home games have we had in like the past 2 weeks? Right, Weber State, Denver, Montana State. North Carolina A&T, and now UTSA.
And you had a football game mixed in there.
And you had a football game. That is like managing your budget.
It's a heavy saturation.
That I can understand.
I get that.
That's
there
a
were
great
some
point.
ticket deals, though, that Utah State put together, which I applauded them for.
Oh, they did?
Because there's a
I didn't know that.
game on a Friday night.
I didn't know that.
Game the next day. They did make some packages together, but apparently not enough people knew about it. Because you didn't know about it. You didn't hear about it.
Was it on social media? I didn't see it on social media even. If that is, that's great, but I didn't even know. I would have definitely promoted that. I would have said, I remember last year, I think it was when they were going, I can't remember, it was like a $13 deal for a ticket for a football game and a basketball game, if I remember right. What are you giving me that look for?
Well, somebody says, no full court press today? We're live right now.
Hi, Eric Frandsen and Ajay Salvesen, live here on the Full Court Press, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, The Fan. Currently 4:14 your time here on November 19th on a Tuesday. Yeah?
We should be.
Mike, I think we are. If we're not on the air, well, someone just texted me, so obviously they're listening.
Yeah. I think this is the same guy who had some questions about hearing multiple things at once, thinking that we were playing music during our show. So I hope that's not the same.
I hope you get your problems figured out, dude.
Problem. But yes, we're on the air.
We're on the air. But yeah, again, 435-752-1069. And I just want to hear if we have a legit gripe in complaining about the lack of fan base, or the reasons you are not going. And I'd love to hear your reasons, and I'm not going to criticize you for them unless you say, well, there's not enough entertainment in the game. If you say that, you're going down.
Yeah, I saw that last night. Like, really? Do you decide to go based on what the halftime entertainment is?
If you're going to make it on the Kiss Cam?
Do you decide to go or not because of what happens during a timeout? Honestly, please, honestly answer that question. Do you, when you're planning out your night and how you're going to expend your time and spend your money, think, what's the halftime entertainment going to be when the 15th best team in the country plays in the Spectrum? I don't think I'm going to go if I think that's boring.
Yeah, is
that an honest to goodness excuse? If it is, I'm flabbergasted. That my mind doesn't work that way. And if that's the reason why you decide whether or not to go, okay, great.
But give away your tickets.
You know what? If you're not going to, find someone who will. And maybe that's just it. Maybe this fan base just isn't as big as a lot of Aggie fans would hope that it is.
Yeah, like it used to be. And why isn't it? That's another question is Craig Smith and this ticket department and the marketing department has done an incredible job at Utah State. Why isn't it where it used to be? What are you looking for? Are you looking for clowns that make balloons? Are you looking for the Goodyear blimp to fly through? Like, what is your problem that you don't think you should be coming out to Utah State basketball and watching these guys? Actually, let me add on to that. Utah State football, I know it's 8:30. Utah State football plays Boise State at 8:30 at night. A game in which, assuming that Utah State takes care of business versus a very porous New Mexico football team, would tie for first place. And then it depends on what Air Force does with Wyoming on November 30th. Are you going to that game? Is it too late for you? Now, I can understand, but at the same time, it's a Saturday night. What's your thoughts? I mean, are we...
I don't... Every now and then we fall into this trap of berating fans, and I don't like that. This happens from time to time in the course of a football season or in the course of a basketball season. Basketball, I could understand a lot of the reasons why people didn't go, because it was mediocre or not good basketball. That has changed. It was a top 25 team a year ago. Yeah. It's a top 15 team now. So if your excuses are halftime entertainment, we've got to do a better job of finding people who are excited about having the top 15 team in the country in your backyard.
Okay, what about football? 8:30 at night against Boise State, but you have a chance to clinch at least a tie for first place going into the final week. But at 8:30 at night in November. Thoughts?
I don't know any other way to say it. I mean, this is a really, really good and fun basketball team. It's not like it's a slugfest, drag it out really slow, ball control, maybe get a possession here or there. No, this is an up-tempo, very exciting team.
Time out. I just asked you about 8:30 at night against Boise State for football.
Sorry. That weather might be a little bit cool, but you've got a top 25 team coming into town, a Utah State football team that's still got an opportunity to play for a conference title. That time of night, nothing else going on.
435-752-1069.
Or maybe we just need to adjust our thinking. The Aggie fan base is really, really small. Those who are really interested in attending a game and supporting their team, it's just a small group. And we should just wrap our minds around that. And just, hey, that's what it is. And if Utah State gets more than 20,000 to a game, that's gravy. But there's 16,000 loyal fans. That's it. And if that's true, a lot of things need to be adjusted. Ticket prices, rights fees, what everybody expects for how they treat other Aggie fans. Because why are we paying so much to go and if there's not going to be that many other people there? Well, let's adjust the size of our stadiums. Let's adjust the size of our arenas. If the fan base really is only 16,000 at best, let's just accept that that's what it is. It's a good program with very few fans. And let's not parade around acting like we're the big deal and we got all the Wasatch Front and we're the big deal in the state of Utah. Because it's not. It's not even a big deal in Cache Valley. So if that's what it is, let's just accept that and say that's what it is and not try to pretend that it's something that it's not. It's a harsh take. It's Tell the Truth Tuesday, Ajay.
Yeah, that is. No, it is. You're right. You're right. And I kind of started nodding with you of agreeing to that, and it made me feel bad that I question the Aggie fan base because on Twitter they come out strong, right? On Twitter they're everywhere, but then when it comes to a 7:00 game on a Monday night, it's quiet. That's the problem. That's the problem with all of this.
And you know what? Those fans that did show up, they're great. Those fans that do go to the football games, they're great. The fans that go to the basketball games, they're great. You're awesome. Way to go. Keep it going. And bring friends with you. Heaven knows there's seats available.
And again, it sounds harsh, but yeah, I remember looking around. I think it was just at tip-off, and I thought, what in the world?
Last year, both football and basketball were top 25 teams.
Oh, and football was
empty. We didn't have
empty.
consistent sellouts.
Do you remember the San Jose?
We didn't have any sellouts.
Do you remember the San Jose State game? How it was 2:00 in the afternoon, and it was warm and beautiful, gorgeous day. That place was empty. I don't think it even hit 16,000, actually.
Yeah, it's this mentality of, who's coming into town?
Yeah,
I think
we care more about the opponent coming in than we do about our own team.
Yeah, I think you're right, which is sad. I mean, that's a sad state of kind of your own personal buy-in for your team, quote unquote.
435.
If you're a fan of that team, you go to support your team. If they're having a great year, you're there to celebrate with them.
435-752-1069. Are we right or wrong? Call us out. If we're wrong, let us know. If we're right, you aren't going to call us. We're going to agree with it, and we'll stay right here. And honestly, I stand on that stool, and I appreciate the fans coming out. The fans that come out, I appreciate it. And I know Coach Smith and the players and Coach Anderson and the players appreciate it.
It makes a big difference. It makes a big difference to have a good, raucous, vocal crowd. It also makes a difference when it's quiet and there are big chunks of empty seats. You don't think the players notice that? You don't think that they don't realize that there's something missing there when they're out there having the season that they're having? It's kind of disappointing, but I mean, you're happy for those who do come. And you're happy for those who do celebrate and have a good time there with you.
435-752-1069. Chunk, you're on the line. Chunk, what do you got for us here on the Full Court Press?
I'm with you guys. Can't figure out why people don't go to Aggie sports. It kills me. We finally got good programs. And people that have spent their whole 60-year lifetime complaining that the Aggies aren't any good, they don't have good coaches, they don't get good kids in, they bring all their players in from California. They got no leg to stand on anymore. We've got good teams, we got good coaches, we got a lot of Utah and Idaho kids. So my question is, what's holding you back now? I've finally reached a time in my life where I can have football season tickets and basketball season ticket. And yeah, it pinches me a little bit, but I do it, and I kind of feel like there's a little responsibility to support the local university because of all it does for the community. Got any questions for me?
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. I mean, there's been some times where.
By the way, thanks for the call.
Yeah,
John.
thanks,
Appreciate
John.
you, buddy.
There's been times where we've seen coaches go out and recruit players, and maybe they don't really understand the culture, and our culture doesn't understand them, and there's just this disconnect. I get that to some degree, though. Honestly, in my opinion, if there are players here that play the coach's way, the Utah State way, and they're winning, I don't care where they're from, and fans will get behind them, get excited for them. You don't think this fan base gets excited for Nimi Ishketa? I mean, he's about almost as far away as you can get. He's not a local kid by any stretch of the means, but you know what? Everybody loves Nimi and how he plays and his passion on the court. Does it help? Does it make a difference if there are some kids from the area? Yes, it does. You want to see there is a connection there. If there's a Utah kid or somebody who served a mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, a lot of people can relate to that. Is it necessary? No. Is it nice? Absolutely. If the team's winning, I don't know that it really matters that much, but I think it certainly does connect, and I think fans get more excited with somebody that they can relate with.
Thanks, Chung, for the phone call. 435-752-1069. That's how it's done, folks. Are we on, or do we have, again, a legitimate gripe? Are we on to something here where the Aggie fan base isn't as big as we thought? Where the frustration because, for whatever reason. And I think that's what me and Eric are trying to figure out here.
Yeah, honest to goodness question. And we're not going to berate you. We're just curious. If you are deciding not to come to the games, why? What more would need to be done? Are you just not aware? Is it not interesting? Is it too expensive? Are there other things that compete for your time and your money? I think those are all fair questions to be asking. We're not going to be accusatory. We're real, honestly just curious.
We just want to know what the problem is.
Yeah,
Where is it?
If the 15th best team in the country is playing in your town, why aren't you going to see them? What else is out there that's competing for your time and your dollars?
Actually, I have a really good question for you that's coming up here. But right now on the line here, 435-752-1069 if you want to join the Full Court Press. Mick, you're on with Eric and Ajay. What do you got, my man?
Hey guys. Thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
Hey, I've been an Aggie fan for almost 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
For about, 20-something years of that, maybe 15, 20 years. I didn't miss any games. Football, basketball. But now, I'm in my mid-40s. I have a family. I can't just sneak away and go to these games like I used to and just leave the small kids at home. So if I go to the game now, I got to kind of pick and choose which ones I go to. And it's not going to be a UT San Antonio. You know what I mean? It's going to be games where maybe the fans are a little more needed, and it's going to be a funner game to go to.
Okay.
Not trying to take anything away from the Aggies. They're very good. So one of the problems, I think, is the cost with that, trying to afford to take all my kids to these games. A couple other things. Back in the Stu Morrill era, where we sold out all the games in a row and it seemed to always be full and the spectrum was magic and loud, none of those games were on TV. You couldn't stay home. You couldn't watch them on Facebook. You had to be there. And I think that's what's really hurting us now, that we're actually relevant in college sports, in football and basketball, is all the games are on TV. You don't have to go out there. You don't have to park a mile from the stadium. You don't have to walk up to the stadium, deal with all that stuff. And so I think that's a factor. Also,
true.
Is it even basketball season yet? Really?
They're playing, so yes.
So
yeah, but I think I get where you're going.
Sure,
keep going.
Who's our biggest non-conference opponent on our schedule this year? At home.
At home?
Uh-huh.
I think we just played them.
Weber State, right? Weber State.
Probably Weber, yeah.
That's our biggest one. So we played our biggest opponent, only Weber State, which I enjoy the rivalry. But you also look at when we're playing these games. Why did we play them so early and on a Friday night? Why aren't we playing that on a Saturday night? And on the Saturday issue, look at our home schedule. Tell me how many Saturday games we have.
I believe it's just, for the most part, I believe it's conference games.
Right. And so, in the past, I don't have season tickets this year because, quite frankly, I bought them. I buy them. My kids are into activities. I have to drive.
Sure.
I couldn't even give away tickets last year to a lot of the games. But they're on Wednesday nights. They're on Tuesday nights. We don't have, back in the Big West, WAC days, we were playing on Thursdays and Saturdays, and it just made it a lot easier to get to those games. Not taking anything away. I can't speak for anybody else. I'd love to go to all the games. It's just not possible. But in my opinion, once the cold weather hits and once we're playing the real basketball season, the conference games, I think you will see the spectrum full. But anyhow, that's my take.
Mick, thank you so much for your phone call, man. Greatly appreciate you. That's how it's all done, everybody. 435-752-1069. I have, but in response to Mick, all right, Coach Peterson, I think I've said this already a couple times here on the Full Court Press, they have called as many teams as possible to try to set up games where teams said, no, we don't want to play you. All right? That's just how it is now. Because how good this team is, teams don't want to come to the Spectrum and play them. St. Mary's will be more than happy to play them at St. Mary's. Any of those big teams, LSU, Florida, they aren't going to come to the Spectrum and play the Aggies. There is no way, and you know what, that they're going to do that. They're not going to risk their pride and their ego to come play you. This team's too good. So I understand where you're like, well, it's only Weber State. By the way, UTSA is picked to finish second in their conference. Montana State, I think, is picked to win their conference, or at least finish at the top. But there's only so much that Coach Pearson and the scheduling committee can do for the Aggies to bring opponents, high-caliber opponents, into this arena. They can only deal with what they're given, and that's the best they could do. And frankly, I don't blame Florida for not wanting to come to Utah State. I don't blame LSU. I don't blame any California team, UCLA, USC. I don't blame Washington for saying, yeah, we ain't coming to the Spectrum to face you guys. That ain't happening.
A couple of responses. So just to recap, some of his points were, is it really basketball season? There's no real quality non-conference home games, which you've just detailed. They've tried. The expense of bringing a family to multiple games, and that he's tried to give tickets away. People haven't wanted them, which goes to my point earlier. We would just need to adjust our thinking about what the size is really of this Utah State fan base. Another point that's pointed out on Twitter, I think there were more people there Saturday than they announced. The scanners weren't working, so for those of us with mobile tickets, they just waved us through without actually counting. Total
attendance announced, by the way, 8667.
So would that have accounted for a dramatic difference? I mean, maybe it looked bigger than 86, but not dramatically different.
Understood. I get that. And then the games on the Friday nights, by the way, what do you mean play them on Saturday?
Yeah,
we can't. Like, are you going to schedule a 5 o'clock basketball game 2 hours before 3 hours after a football game? And I'm sure the ticket office would have put a great deal package together, but that's really a lot to ask for a family to say, go sit and watch a 3.5 hour football game, turn around, go watch a 2.5 hour basketball game.
Yeah, football, basketball doubleheaders on the same day, usually
it's not going to mark well.
Yeah, it's not going to work.
With all due respect to Mick.
But, I have seen, as I said earlier, they have Utah State. This kind of came about late, but they were trying to do some things where, and could be I'm confusing this with something that happened earlier in the season, because you didn't see this, but they're trying to do some things where, look, you get a deal. If you buy the basketball, you get basketball for discounted for one night, and you use that for your football the next day. They're There ought to be more of that because you're right. There was a Aggie saturation over the last week and a half or so. But I'm honestly, I'm just, you and I just are curious. We just, what are some of those things that have kept you from going to see the 15th best team in the country?
435-752-1069. Eric and Ajay here on the Full Court Press. Good calls from Chunk and Mick. We greatly appreciate it. Anyone else who has thoughts, don't be afraid. Pick up your phone, dial the show. We'll hear you out. We'll have our opinions. You'll have yours. We might agree, might disagree, but we'd love to hear from you, the Aggie fans who we speak about, who we want to know from. So look, you and I are media. We have our goggle media's on, or media goggles on, and we have our take about it. But from the Aggie fans themselves, I love what Mick's call was. It was from an Aggie perspective itself, from Chunk, Aggie fan himself. 435-752-1069. We are long overdue for a break, so we're going to go to break. Eric's got to jump up to practice to get some audio, and he'll come back and give us some general takes of USU football practice as they get ready for a major, big showdown against Boise State. Don't forget, In the Know tomorrow with the Boise State Broncos. Don't forget Saturday night, 6:30. Eric Frandsen, Craig Hislop, Al Lewis, Ryan Bone, best in the biz. We're going to give you a great pregame. They're going to give you even better postgame. Win or lose, no draws, but they're going to give you the best takes possible, and they're going to allow you to be a part of the show as well on our sister station on 610 AM KVNU. Time to take a break, so let's do it here on the Full Court Press, 1069 FM, 1390 AM, The Fan.
The Aggies, Jazz, high schools, even the Pee Wees T-ball team. It's the Full Court Press on Sports Talk Radio, The Fan.
I felt what I've known, never shine doing what I've shown, never be, never see, won't see what might have been.
Eric Frandsen and Ajay Salvesen here on the Full Court Press, 1069 FM, 1390 AM, The Fan. We're hearing that we are having troubles with our streaming. We are trying to get it fixed ASAP. We apologize for the technical difficulties that we are having at this time. 435-752-1069. If you want to call in and give your thoughts on, hey, look, Aggie fans have not been great in attendance for games. We've had a couple of calls already explaining on both sides of the party what their thoughts are on that. I'd love to hear from you. You agree or disagree on that? And what if you do agree, what needs to be done to fix it?
And we've had a few other comments on Twitter, which I have.
Okay, go.
One says, I go to every game. However, USU has done a lot to alienate the meat and potatoes fan. I've asked him to elaborate on that. I'm not exactly sure what they've done or how he means that.
I'm not getting that.
Another one saying, would love to go to more games, but tickets for a family of 6 plus parking adds up.
It does. Now, that is 100% true.
Yes.
It does cost a lot.
Up. And as we said earlier, we kind of had an Aggie saturation of a bunch of home games for basketball, a couple of home games in football together. That's a lot for some families to get to all of those games. So that can be understandable. And again, just honest to goodness question. What is it that prevents you or keeps you from going to see some games? And if it is something that's keeping you away or something that Utah State's not doing or that they are doing, we're just curious, honestly curious. What keeps somebody from not attending a game within driving distance to see the top 15 team in the country?
435-752-1069. Link joins the Full Court Press with Eric and Ajay. Link, what you got, my man?
So I just wanted to start out by saying I remember back in the day, I guess, when I can remember Utah was in here in the Spectrum. They had the decibel meter. That was fun.
Oh, I remember those days.
I remember Andre Miller was dribbling up the top of the key, and there was a foul called, and he couldn't even hear the ref, and the ref was like standing right next to him. And that stuff was awesome. It made me an Aggie fan, But I want to kind of echo what Mick said earlier about the points about the cost. The cost it's a big deal. I don't know why they don't put more family packages together rather than paying $25 for every one of your kids. Can't we get a little break on the cost of the family? And I know that can be abused if people say, yeah, we're family, and they're kind of a mixture. But it would put more fans in the seats if there was some kind of a group a group discount that way. My question, I think, was more on the lines of scheduling. Like, and I don't know the answer, so this is a real question. Do you guys know if the UCLAs or the LSUs, whoever you're talking about, if they were to agree to a home and home, or has that been put on the table and been rejected by those other teams? So
talking to the couple of people I've talked to very, very close to the situation, they will not come here. They don't want any part of the Spectrum. And really, you can't blame them. The Spectrum is one of the toughest places in the country to play at, and those teams were not really thrilled about coming to the Spectrum.
Well, and there is this is sweeping across the country. This is not unique to Utah State, that Power 5 programs are scheduling non-Power 5 programs less and less. They would rather have more conference games and less out-of-conference games. And so it makes it even more difficult for someone like USU to get a quadrant 1 game. And they might schedule you, but you have to either play them in a neutral site or at their place. They won't come to your place.
But in the, and for the overall, I guess the mission of the basketball season or a basketball program, NCAA, wouldn't that be in their best interest to schedule multiple non-conference games?
Yeah, I mean, but now,
but the games that they schedule are going to be against other power conferences.
Bingo. And for example, like you look at UVU last night, right? They go to Kentucky and they nearly beat Kentucky. I mean, they were, I think it was a 3-point game with 2 minutes left. I mean, they came within inches of upsetting one of the blue collar team, I guess one of the blue blood teams of college basketball. And so teams want to avoid, I mean, having to deal with that. For example, like Florida, I'm sure, I guess to an extent, even though they're going to play Utah State, isn't thrilled about having to play Utah State knowing how good the Aggies are. If that makes sense what I'm saying, I'm sorry. I'm kind of jumbling there.
Well, so it's kind of a lose-lose for them, because if they win, they're supposed to win, and if they lose, then they should have won, and that's a loss. It's a bad loss, considered a bad loss on the resume because it wasn't to a Power 5.
Yeah, exactly. And they actually fear more to the part of we could actually lose to these guys. This is how good Utah State is. We know how good Utah State is. We don't want to go there, or even worse, have them come to our house and then beat us. Because then you look at your RPI and it's going to look really, really rotten, according to them. Now, I think a Utah State loss looks great on your resume. That's just me.
It does now.
Sure.
A few years ago, it wouldn't have.
No, yeah, but now, I mean. But again, like if UVU beats Kentucky, that looks horrible on Kentucky's resume.
Yeah, Utah Valley almost pulled it off.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate the show. You guys, you do a good job. I'm going to be to the Boise State game on Saturday night.
Awesome.
But like I said, that's a $300 game for a family. Yep. You know, and you just can't drop that kind of money every time an opponent comes in, and especially one like a UT San Antonio. Even though they're 6th, 2nd, they're still UT San Antonio, and it just doesn't. You kind of have to budget your dollars where your interest is, and it's not with UT San Antonio. It's probably more with the UNLVs, the Colorado States, the Boise States. You know, in our conference, like Mick was saying. But I appreciate the show,
point.
Guys.
That's a great point. No, hey, thank you, Link, for the phone call. That's how it's done, everybody. 435-752-1069. He's got a great point in regards to financial, and Coach Smith mentioned that. He said, look, we have 5 home games, and you got to kind of budget it so that you're not going crazy. And that money, it all adds up in the end.
Right. For quite a few people, they have to be selective about what games they choose to go to. And so that, again, gets to the point of this fan base isn't as big, because if it was a large fan base, that kind of wash itself out.
Yeah. 435-752-1069. Now joining the full court press, Eric and Ajay. John, what's your thoughts, my man?
Yeah, hey, listen, I just listening to the last caller. There are family plan tickets available for both basketball and football for pretty reasonable.
Where do you find those plans, and how can the fans find those plans? Do you know?
I believe you have to call the ticket office they're not available for purchase online, but just call the ticket office and they do have them. I don't know why they're not online, but you do. But two adults, 3 kids. For football, my tickets were like $330, so it's like $10 a ticket. That includes Boise State and BYU.
Okay.
And then basketball, you're talking the average ticket for takes it to like $9 if you would have bought them and went to every game, $9 a ticket. So
okay,
for a top 15 team in the country, that's pretty reasonable, in my opinion.
No, I like it. Hey, really
That's
quick.
good to know.
Well, while we have you, want to ask you, John, what's your thoughts on the fan? I mean, are we legit in our gripe, or do you feel like it's a little bit too harsh?
No, so I feel you guys are a little bit on point with. I mean, we had a front-loaded home schedule with 6 basketball games, and then a couple of home football games if you count Wyoming and now Boise State.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there are. I mean, if you've got the season tickets for both, you're committed and you're going. If you're trying to pick and choose, you're going to pick probably football because you got 1 or 2 of those games left, and then you're going to focus on basketball. So, I mean, I think it's just people will start coming to the Aggie basketball games once conference gets in, once it's not a 4-night-a-week Aggie sports event,
Love it. Hey,
Yeah, it's a good point.
Hey, great. Thanks for the phone call, John. Great stuff, man. Greatly appreciate you.
Yep.
That's John. That's 435-752-1069. 435-752-1069. We got to go to break, though. We are way overdue right now. Do you want to do our stat player in the 5 o'clock hour?
I'll have to share that with you another time.
Okay.
But before I go, well, you can read my Twitter. I've been retweeting some of the responses.
Do you have a couple of comments you can read?
No, you can get those after the break.
All right, fine.
While I'm
gone.
gone.
After the break. Fine.
I got to go.
He's got to get to football practice. I'm Ajay Salvesen. That's Eric Frandsen. Here on the Full Court Press, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, The Fan.
And it works.
Colin Cowherd. Weekdays from 10 to 1 on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, The Fan.
Ajay Salvesen here on the Full Court Press. Eric's headed off to go get some audio from Utah State football. Think you're ready for the Boise State Broncos. Saturday night, 8:30 p.m. start on CBS Sports Network. Aggies men's basketball runs away from UTSA 82-50 in another dominating win. They now head to Jamaica Friday versus LSU, 5 p.m., 4:30 on Sunday versus North Texas. Both those games on the CBS Sports Network. Both those games on the Mountain Time. Let's go ahead. So we've been talking about, and by the way, thanks for all the wonderful phone calls. That was an awesome hour from you guys. That show was all about you, and that hour was really all in credit to you, the callers and our listeners. Greatly appreciate you. About this issue with attendance. Now, I mean, Weber State was great. I felt like it started slow, and then people started filing in, and all of a sudden you look at a full house. Montana State was incredible. And Coach Smith has been so grateful and so complimentary, as has the players. Been so grateful and complimentary of the Aggie fans showing up and in attendance, which is pretty cool. We had a couple of comments from people that gave reason why to what side they sit on. Are they the ones that feel like, yeah, you know what, you're right, the attendance isn't where it should be? Or are they the ones that, hey, look, you know what, they could do this better. If they do this, it will help us be able to come more games. The biggest reason we've heard so far, and it's a good one, is the cost of tickets. It is. It's a little expensive. It's pricey, especially if you have a family of 6, right? Wife, kids, and all, to get out to a game. It can be a little bit, it can be kind of a dent in the bank account. The one Twitter follower to Eric had tweeted out, and you can follow Eric on at Frandsen, says, I go to every game. However, USU has done a lot to alienate the meat and potatoes fan. When asked to explain further, the follower said, no mother's lounge or warming tents on the east side for people with young kids. People on the west side have plenty of places to get warm. Well, if you know and I'm going to be respectful to that situation, but I'm also going to tell you to dress warm. If you know it's an 8:30 game at night, dress warm, right? You don't want to go into an 8:30 game at night in November when it's jeans and a t-shirt. Second hour coming up here on the Full Court Press. USU basketball talk about.
I'm Dan Patrick, and this is Above the Noise. Chargers quarterback Phillip Rivers had another rough game last night, throwing 4 interceptions in a loss to the Chiefs. He's now up to 14 picks this season. Still putting up a lot of yards. He's second in the NFL in that particular stat. But some people are starting to wonder if he's on the decline at age 37. Rivers is not alone. The older generation of quarterbacks have not had a good year. Rivers' draft classmates, Eli Manning and Ben Roethlisberger, aren't playing. Drew Brees has been dealing with a hand injury. And Tom Brady is having his worst statistical season in years. The ability of older quarterbacks to produce has been remarkable. But at some point, there has to be a changing of the guard. You never know. Brady and Brees could certainly meet in the Super Bowl. But it sure seems like a new generation of quarterbacks have arrived. And they're pushing the older guys out. We'll see how Rivers and the rest of the old gang respond the rest of the regular season. I'm Dan Patrick, and this is Above the Noise.